these militant ideas of how that Christ, where he does battle with the angels of the devil, with the archangel Michael as his captain, the captain of the angels. And as he does battle with the devil in the underworld to enter into the lower regions in order to free the captive spirits there and preach the gospel there, some artworks show Michael there too. This militant idea was carried over into the Knight Order. See, they were inspired by how that Christ was the victorious king who, after he did battle in the underworld and broke down the doors of hell and entered into Hades, limbo, purgatory, how that he ascended out of hell with freeing the captive spirits, resurrecting them, and then marches throughout the entire earth during this victory march. He marches throughout the earth. He has this banner that's flopping in the wind, and you see this banner in the artworks, which is a banner that's used as a sword, a spear, a lance to thrust the demonic forces, the demons attempting to stop the howling of hell. Christ thrusts the demons or the devil and tramples the devil under his feet, and also do the captive spirits who are being freed out of the spirit prison trample the devil or the demons under their feet as they stampede out of the hell. And as Christ leads this massive mob who've been freed out of hell, he makes his victory march throughout the entire earth, and no doors or kingdoms or gateways can be barred. For Christ just marches through them. Well, see, this was an idea that the early to later Christian knights were inspired by. They were inspired by Michael dressed as a knight. In fact, there was even different orders that used him as a symbol. You see this in the artworks over and over again. He marches as Christ marched forth in battle. He defeats the forces of darkness as Christ defeats the forces of darkness. And so that's the carryover. And along with these are these hand clasps you see in the descent into hell, or the anastasis, the raising up of the dead out of the grave. You see these hand clasps carried over. In fact, there's some artworks that show Adam being raised up by a hand clasp out of the grave. See, this filtered down through the centuries into the idea of Masons, where they have the person lying in the coffin, and other fraternity orders that broke off from there, which became conspiratorial in nature, but had still maintained with them the militant ideas of go forth and conquer. So hopefully you'll be able to see the connection here with all these ancient things on up into the modern times. Now, the connection here with the idea of the Militant Christ, with who marches throughout the earth to conquer all nations, was carried over into the Teutonic Knights, and the Teutonic Knights also sought to go forth and conquer too, and they carried the banners, the cross banners, with them, march forth. And you see this in the artworks of Christ depicted as a militant soldier who goes forth to do battle with the devil wherever he goes, wherever he marches throughout the earth. The idea filtered down through the centuries. Ecclesiastical gloves were symbols that were types of Christ's wounds, and so there was a lot of grips and hand clasps that were done on these gloves as the ecclesiastical leaders would greet one another and as they performed different liturgies and rituals. This was carried over amongst the Masons in later centuries. Were carried over too. Now, I'm saying this because to give you an understanding as to the background as to where the different things that the Masons were doing, where this came from. It came from the different mysteries that they pieced together. But the main influence is clearly early to later Christian mysteries and liturgies and dramas, which were fraternalized in later centuries as they set up Masonic orders here and there. Adams Weishaupt took these mysteries and the secrecy that was behind them and established a militant revolutionary order. In the case with the Germans, who were establishing their own Germanic orders, they took from many things from the Teutonic Knights. Heinrich Himmler was impressed by the Teutonic Knights. He was impressed by the Jesuit order of the Catholic Church and took many things from them. Hitler was influenced by Jörg Lanz, a renegade monk, and took many of his ideologies from the writings of Astara, which Jörg Lanz had written and had circulated throughout Germany. As these two rival orders began to flourish in Europe, there was contention between the two groups. Both sought to dominate the world. Both sought to establish a world order. Hitler's called his order and based his order on a lot of the occult writings of Helena Petrov Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine, which was written during the late 1800s. So there was a lot of influences that come into play with the Nazis' New World Order. In the case with the New Order that Lenin and Trotsky tried to establish, this was influenced by, of course, and financed by international bankers. And the Rockefellers family ties in with this, with I.B. Farben and the Standard Oil being the source for the gas for the Nazi U-boats. So what we see here is a rivalry between two orders, which, as some of the tapes we've listened to earlier, was actually put into play by international bankers and conspirators who were seeking to establish a new world order and cause a crisis by which they could defeat Germany, crush the German order, and cause America to make friends with the Atheistic order, the communist. This seems to have been orchestrated because as the occult masters were watching the World War II brew and World War I brew, and they looked to Hitler as possibly being the one that would become victor, and Hitler being one of their followers, Hitler being one of their disciples, one of their readers and believers in the occult. They were hoping that he would be could be used to establish and bring about the new world order. Well, Hitler's order was just basically in Germany. But the militant ideas of go forth and conquer were still present in the Germanic orders. The militant ideas of go forth and conquer were prevalent in the atheistic version of the New World Order, which was founded by Adam Weishaupt and caused the French Revolution and caused the Bolshevik Revolution. Actually, the Bolshevik Revolution was taken over by Trotsky and Lenin, who were sent in by and financed by international bankers, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And well, what happened to the idea of Christ going to other nations? This filtered down through the centuries, was lost until it became one in Christ child traditions during Christmas time, and Kris Kringle traditions during Christmas time, and eventually Santa Claus traditions.